So now let's go ahead and store some files in the database, and I'm going to go ahead and go to localhost and select phpMyAdmin and databases, share, and I want to create a new table. So I'm going to create an images table, and then for the columns I'm going to want to have an ID, which is going to be auto increment. So every time I add a new image to the database, it's going to get a new ID, and that's called a surrogate key. And that's going to be the primary key for the table. So that's what I'm going to use to look up images. And then I'm going to store the original file name and the data for the image. And I need to store the MIME type, which is going to be important later on when I want to display the image in a browser. And I'm also going to display the size, which I could calculate based on the data, but I think it's easier to just store it in the database. So that's going to be 5 pieces of information. And in the real system, I'm also going to want to store like the user ID of the user who created the image and whether it's public or private and the time that it was created and some other stuff. But just to keep this simple, for now, I'm just going to create these 5 columns and select Go. So my columns are going to be image ID, and then let's go ahead and do file name. Let's call that name. And then MIME type. And then let's do size. And finally data. So image ID is just going to be an integer. And we won't specify a default. We're going to auto increment that. And that's going to make it be the primary key. So automatically primary key is just image ID, which is an int. And I'll say OK. And then the rest of these are fine. And then name is going to be a varchar, variable number of characters. And I have to put the longest file name I expect to see. And I think under Windows, I think you can actually have something it's either 256 or it's 65,000, one or the other for file name. But I'm just going to put 256 here. And if it's longer than 256, I'm just going to truncate it because I don't really care about the file name. So there you go. And then for varchar, MIME type varchar, I'll also use 256 here. Size is just an integer. And then for the type of data, what I want is a blob. And blob is binary large object. And there's different blob types. And basically the type determines the maximum size of the blob. This is 2 to the 8th, so 256. And I think 2 to the 16, so 16K. This is 2 to the 24, so 16 megabytes. I'm sorry, this is 65K, this is 16 megabytes. And since I set the maximum upload size to be 30 megabytes, some of those images won't fit in a medium blob. So I'm going to use a long blob. Maximum size is 2 to the 32nd, which is 4 billion bytes. So 4 gig, which is pretty big for an image. So I'll go ahead and select that. And then I don't need to specify anything else here. So let's go ahead and hit save. Good. So here's my images table. And default size here is 11 digits, which should be more than adequate for these purposes. And then in my test upload file, that calls upload test, so upload test. So here's the thing that actually handles the upload. And let me refresh my memory. I'm going to go back to localhost CIS295p share test upload file. And I'm going to choose some files. And this time so there's a PNG and a JPEG and a GIF, or GIF if you prefer. And let me go ahead and put a break. Oh, I already have a breakpoint, but let me turn on debugging and hit upload. Okay, so files is an array with an uploaded files key. And so let's go ahead and set uploaded files equal $under files sub uploaded files. And once again, I'm just testing this out, so I'm not going to bother with constants here. I'm just going to keep this simple. And then inside of uploaded files, I have 5 arrays, and each array has 3 elements in it. So for $i equals 0, because these are just numeric, and $i less than count of uploaded files sub, and I can use any one of these arrays because they all have the same length, but I'll just go ahead and use temp name. $i plus plus. So that's going to loop through 0, 1, 2, and then the first file is going to be $uploaded files sub sub name sub $i, and that's going to be the name of the first file, and then the type of the first file, MIME type, is uploaded files subtype sub $i, and then I need the temp name so I can read the data. And then I don't need error, but I do need size. So there's all of the values that I need. I'm going to go ahead and get the file contents. So data is equal to get file get contents, and then the file name is temp name, and all the rest of those are optional. So that's one line that will get me all of the contents of that temp file. And then I'm ready to make a SQL statement. So up here, let's start with a query. And this is going to be insert into images, and I'm going to list the columns here. So I don't need to specify a value for the ID because that's auto-numbered, and I need, let me look at this again here. So name, MIME type, size, data. Name, MIME type, size, data. Those are the values I'm inserting. And so values, and here's where I use my parameters for them. So that will insert a row, and then I need a database. And then I'm going to prepare my statement. And then I can bind. And then the types are, so name is going to be string, MIME type is going to be string, size is an integer, I, and then data is binary, B. And the only other type, there's 4 of them. So string, integer, binary, and there's D for double, which is a floating point format. And then I need to list the variables that are going to get those values. So name, type, size, and data. And then after I've set those values, I can call statement pointer execute. Now, this isn't a select statement, so it's not returning a value. So I'm basically done here as far as inserting values into the database goes. So I'm just going to close my database connection. And then let's go ahead and test it and see if it works. So I'm going to stop the previous one, go back to here, hit upload again, and continue. And let's go ahead and delete that. Don't need that anymore. But if that worked, I should actually have 3 rows in my images database, 1 for each file. So let's actually see what I got. So I'm going to go to Browse, and I have debugging on still, so let me turn that off and continue. So here's what I got. Image ID 123, so auto-numbered. Here's the name of the original file, saveas.png, me.png, and so on. MIME type is image PNG, image JPEG, image GIF. Size is 612, and so on. And then I'm not sure if this data is actually correct here. I think I might have to do something special to send this data for the blob. Yeah, so I think what I have to do is one more thing right here. Right before the execute, I'm going to call statement pointer send long data. And I need the parameter number, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3. And then the data is data. And this additional step actually sends this as a set of packets, which is required for sending binary data. Let's go ahead and try that. Upload, back here, reload. Good, so now it worked. So 612 bytes, 11K, and 12K. So I'm going to delete the bogus ones. And now I have 3 rows of data. So let's go ahead and add one more thing to wrap this up. I want to add a page which will actually show me this image as an image in the browser. And so that's going to be fetch image, call it new PHP file test fetch image. And this is going to take an ID as a get parameter, so this ID here. So $ID is get sub ID, and then I need a DB connection. And then I need a query. So query is equal to select, and I need a couple of things. So I need the MIME type, the image data, and the size. I don't actually need the file name. So we'll go MIME type data size from images where ID is equal to, and then I'm going to use parameter binding for that because I'm getting it out of the URL, so it's safer this way. And then I'm going to prepare the statement. And then I'm going to bind the parameters. So this one just has a single, it's actually a string type, so it's actually an integer type in the database, so I'm going to try integer there. Now I might actually have to explicitly turn this into a number, but we'll go ahead and try it this way just to see if it works. So bind the ID, and then statement pointer bind result, and then this is going to be let's see, so I need MIME type data and size, type data size, and then I'm going to execute this fetch, so statement pointer execute. And then statement pointer fetch. And I'm only expecting one row coming back because I'm searching on the primary key, but this should give me data, type, data, and size. So here's what I do with that. Header, content type, colon, and I give it the MIME type. And then what I do with the size is content length size, and then I just echo the data. And that should be it. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to test fetch image ID equal 4. Localhost share test fetch image .php question ID equal 4. Call to a member function bind param on Boolean, so I didn't do that right. Statement is prepare query. So I think this is probably not working. Let's go ahead and put a breakpoint here and turn on debugging, reload. So here's my query, step, and then statement is false, so that didn't actually work. So let's look at query in detail here. Select MIME type data size from images where ID equal question mark. So let's look at this. image ID. So I got the wrong name. Let's go ahead and continue. Image ID is that. Let's see if this works. Ooh, there's my image. So let's look at 5. There I am. And then 6. Right. So you'll notice there's nothing here. There's no extension that reflects what type of file this is. And the way it's deciding whether to display this as a GIF or a PNG or a JPEG is based on that MIME temp that we're sending. So if I look, for example, at the network and hit reload, you'll see the response headers includes image/GIF in the content type, and that's what it uses to decode and display that image.